Hi, my name's James Short from hgkc, and we've put together a presentation called Crisis Management in Challenging Times to help you and your business survive through our current crisis. Our objectives for today are, first of all, to give you some pointers to help you review the future business challenges that you face. And remember that every business is unique. And although we have produced a generic presentation, hopefully there will be pieces in here which you can use to help you and your business survive this challenge. We need to, of course, help you evaluate your current modus operandi against the planned objectives that we're going to help you set out. And this will be in the form of a strategy on a page. And this will become clearer as we go through the presentation. We need to look very closely at the implications of the changes that you will be faced with. And out of that, we will help you to provide a 90-day action plan that will ensure your survival through this crisis. How to get started? Well, in my past, we used to use something called the 4Ds: decide, divide, delegate, and deliver. You have to make some decisions, hard as though it might seem, in reviewing your customer base, which is the key to your future survival. You need to look at how you can help them through the crisis. You need to listen to what their challenges are and see how you can help them. And depending on the size of your company, you need to divide all the actions into bite-sized chunks. If there is only one of you, you still need to do this, because an elephant, as we all know, can only be eaten in bite-sized chunks. And by dividing everything up, it becomes more manageable. And in the same category, really, to each of these actions, the who does it, by when, and with what resources has to be decided and written down. And this is something that once we've helped you create the plan, will be reviewed every week to 2 weeks, depending on your speed of operations. And then, of course, in the delivery phase, we need to work out a communications plan, a communications action plan that helps you put your initiatives actually in place and working. So what are the considerations? Well, we're looking at 3 really. In the work streams, the most important, of course, are people. And closely followed, if not equal, are finances. And without marketing and sales, your company will simply wither. So the next phase of the planning business is scenario planning. You need to decide a start point, and that's probably fairly straightforward at the moment, but it is not all doom and gloom, because you have a lot of potential resources. You need to look at a timeline and the sort of the money, people, resources side of it, and the variables that you face. And many of you will say, but I can't do that. It's in the all too difficult category. But by sitting down and thinking the unthinkable, as well as what could be the bright, rosy future, you can come up with some variables. And not everything is doom and gloom. And then, of course, as cash is king, we need a cash flow forecast. And that we can help you do. And finally, in the considerations is marketing and sales. It is really thinking outside the box time. Innovation is key. And in marketing, you have to let people know that A, you are still in business, and B, that you are doing things in a new and different and fresh approach way. And maybe you'll use social media in a way you haven't used before, or make better use of LinkedIn or virtual meetings. Many of us are having online conferences and meetings now, and we need to get slicker at using this for over the next few months. And of course, remember the 5 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. So all the work that you do in preparation will pay dividends, believe me. Let's look at workstream 1, the people. And of course, you've got to start with your own people. What can you do to support them? They're going to have to work from home, or maybe there's flexible working if you're in one of the categories where people have to come into work, or there's furlough. Decide what it is and how you can best help them. And of course, the most important thing is to listen to their needs and see what you can do. Maintaining the team is absolutely key. And this isn't just the employees, but of course it's your customers and suppliers. Talk to them and see what they are thinking about and how you best as a team can work together into the future. And then the online initiatives. There are all sorts of things that can help you. There are people out there with advice, courses, skills. There are mentors who can help you, who've perhaps been through a similar type of crisis that you might be facing. Because again, every business is unique. So the crisis that you face might not be exactly the same as the crisis of your neighboring business or whatever it might be. And then, of course, there are volunteers who will help you. And perhaps the most important thing is to communicate and to keep communicating. Honest, regular communication, with a key being listening. And through the listening, you get feedback. And if you don't, then ask for it, because you need your customers and your employees to feed back information to you. And of course, never forget the value of the human touch. A phone call, a chat, whatever it is, can work wonders. The next work stream is finances. As I mentioned before, the baseline is the start position where you need to review your fixed costs and look at some of the options that are open to you. There are many initiatives out there, from the government to people in and around you, banks, accountants, lawyers, whoever it might be, and identify some of the options that are open to you. And once you've done that, then update your P&L and balance sheet. In identifying the variables, this is something that in my past I've had to do many, many times. And as I said, it's what we call scenario planning. And one of the ways to do it is to look at the sort of worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And hopefully somewhere in the middle, you will find a way forward. But you have to do the thinking. And it's not just thinking in your own head. If you commit it to paper, then it all becomes clearer. And this is a time when, working from home or wherever, you can sit down and commit it to paper. Modeling cash flow is a very difficult business, but there are people out there who will help you. So once you've got the basics down, then call for advice, call for somebody to help you, and model cash flow in a best worst case scenario. And when it comes to looking at your accounts, how much can you reduce? And of course, many fixed costs simply can't be reduced, but they can be postponed, put back, or whatever. And then look at optimizing the portfolio of what you offer. Are there new things you can do, or old things that you can put on hold for a moment? And of course, look for collaboration opportunities. You are not in this alone. Look for people in the same business who you can team up with and work together, because half a bit of cake is better than no bit of cake at all. And of course, the supply chain are going to be under a lot of stress at this time. So look at your stock levels, the pricing structure, payment terms. And if the payment terms are too harsh, then talk to whoever it is and negotiate, because we are all in this together. And look at some of what we would call resilience measures. What can you put in place to help you over the next few months? Because we are going to come out of this crisis. And if you plan now and look forward positively, then you can do that better than if you hunker down with a sort of bunker mentality and think it will all blow over your head. The third work stream is marketing and sales. People need to know you're in business. So first of all, protect your customers. And there's all sorts of means of preserving loyalty, whether it's no penalties for cancellation or deferment, or waiving fees, or whatever it might be. And these can be drawn up as a collective into what we would call stabilization measures. And that can include the need to promote your business. And so that you have to revise your sales targets, and have some flexibility. It is the time now to think the unthinkable and just see where it will lead you. And you'll be surprised actually at how often that will come out positively. A new sales forecast is a must. And whether it's the sort of options you have for delivery or transportation or whatever it might be, look at it and come up with a new sales forecast that is going to allow you to survive. And for future investment, the government's offered money in certain circumstances, and it depends how big your business is and what category you fit into. And there are both grants and loans. And one of the tips that we just picked up today is that if a loan is coming your way, you might not want to saddle your company with more debt. And that's absolutely right. So put in place all the paperwork to get the loan and defer it until you need it, so that if it's got a year to run, you can put that year off paying back for as long as possible. And of course, throughout it, and I've kept talking about this, increased communications, more frequent calls to all your supporters, accountants, banks, whatever it might be. And look at the online opportunities. Certainly my LinkedIn has gone mad over the last few days with people coming up with online suggestions to do this, that, and the other. Well, go to a source of advice and help that you can trust and look to see what they can provide in terms of helping you. So what are the actions? Well, we've put the actions into three categories. The first really is understanding the exposure. We're all exposed to this crisis in different ways. So if you can understand what are essentially the critical components of your business, that will help. You have to have what we've called an inventory buffer. And that is, you need to keep supplying a resource. So review that and look to see what the buffer is. And in your supply chain, it's no use you promising people and then suddenly your suppliers, who are in the same boat as all of us, suddenly can't supply a vital piece of kit for you or a support service. And then draw up this scenario plan for 6 months. And we reckon that certainly that is something about the horizon of what the current planning should be at the moment. And then, of course, talk to all your existing customers again to determine the likely demand requirements from them, because they want to do business, they want to stay in business, and they probably need your help. The second lot of actions are to address potential shortfalls. These are going to occur. Now, if one of your markets has simply shut down, well, then you have to look for new markets. I mean, we heard of a car hire company this morning, whose, of course, immediate market has simply dropped through the floor. Well, people will still be driving around and will still need that sort of resource. Well, look at new markets and how you do it. So whatever it is, take a blank sheet of paper and look for new markets. And in all of this, the travel and transport is going to be restricted. We know that. But online, we can do all sorts of amazing things. And certainly the online groups that I've been talking to within the last week or so have been getting better and better and more professional. So consider what the opportunities are online for you. And of course, if there are cost-saving measures, then reluctantly, you might have to take them and then tell the people or your customers or whoever it is who it impacts how it affects them. And of course, look for ways to collaborate. And this might even be talking to your competitors, because again, there are people in the same boat as you who might wish to collaborate with you, at least for the time being, because we're all in this together. And the third is to review what we've called additional options. Innovation, innovation, innovation is what it's all about. New markets, new links, new suppliers, whatever it might be. As I've mentioned before, collaboration. Look to see who you can work with and talk to your competition. There's absolutely no reason why not to. And it might just be that you need to actually invest for the future now. or else you might, in the worst case, exit. Or actually, that might be the decision that you were going to make anyway, and this has just brought the exit to a closer time for you. And again, this needs to be planned. So don't do anything hastily, but sit down and work out a sensible plan. In creating a unique action plan, we're offering a template for you, which you need to adapt to your own circumstances. It's what we call strategy on a page, a SOAP. And of course, the vision, or whatever it might be, in this case, survive the next 6 months with my business intact. I think that's what many of us are trying to do. And in your own way, because each company is unique, you will set out a set of objectives below which are goals, which you have to put in priority order. And this is eating the elephant one bite at a time. You can't do everything all at once. So look at the priorities, focus on them, and create an action item with who's going to do what and what timescale with what resources, and set a budget for it that is reflected in your cash flow forecast. Set some success criteria, and then monitor how it goes along. And we would recommend at least a review every 2 weeks, because this is not a document that you write and it stays the same. It is not a tablet set in stone. This is something that you review, use, and move on and amend. So this is your vital lifeline to the future. However, it's no good having a plan if you don't put it into action. So the who will do what, with which resources, and by when has to be communicated. And in order to communicate, you've got to go through the let people know, make sure they understand, and make sure that even though they understand, they actually want to do business with you, so they're convinced that the help that you can offer them will help them survive the next 6 months. And for each of those columns, the awareness, comprehension, and conviction, there is a message, and the message will be subtly different. And you might choose to put it out over different mediums, whether it's social media or in print or on the radio or through webinars. There are lots of different ways to do it now. But if you create a communication action plan to take your SOAP and then tell people about it, we have found that this is the best way to move forward. So, your homework. You have to now, if ever there was a time to work on your business, not just in it, it is right now. And I'm sure that you understand that. Create a plan. Without a plan that is written down, you're actually directionless. And with all due respect, it's no use it being in your head. It has to be on paper and reviewed and changed and amended. With many of the plans that I had drawn up in my past, did I put them all into effect? I most certainly didn't. But the act of creating a plan is absolutely essential, because it allows you to think through many of the issues that I've addressed in this presentation just now. And of course, it's lonely at the top. If you're the leader, the managing director, the CEO, talk to people. I've talked about communication all the way through. And if you want advice or support or mentoring or whatever you would like to call it, there are people out there who will listen and will help. So use your network that you know, like, and trust. It is the most affordable way to survive the next challenges that we all face. So to sum up, focus on your business, give it some direction, really ensure that you have clarity and maintain control. And if you need help with your homework, please do contact hgkc. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and I hope to hear from you. Thank you.